What's up, everybody? Let's welcome my special guest, man. He's a guy that's done the radio. He's done a little bit of everything with the 49ers, man. We're talking about 49ers access. Sterling Bennett, man. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here talking to CG Ruthless. About a week-ish, 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. It's coming up big. The offseason is full steam ahead, and nobody else better to talk to than the man, CG Ruthless, today.
Yeah, pretty much. Looking at the Niners offseason, we didn't have too much of those expectations. We thought from what Jed New York and the other people were saying, man, we were thinking, man, they're going to go budget shopping, right?
Yeah, it didn't seem like they'd be in the business of making these big splash moves, but to their credit, they got Mike Evans, they brought back Dre Greenlaw, they made a big trade for Osa Odigizua, and I think they kind of bucked the trend that many folks thought they were going to do, which was like 2025, buy small, kind of play the margins, but they said, nope, we're getting some big names, and hopefully it pays dividends down the road.
Exactly. Just from last season, I think we exceeded our expectation because we didn't quite go too big on free agency, and we did pretty solid in the draft. But the expectation was, even if we won 10 or 11 games, that would have been better than nothing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, including myself last year, walked into the season thinking, okay, at most, maybe 10 wins, right? And to their credit, again, Brock Purdy played phenomenal down the stretch. I think ascended to a different tier of quarterback than he was in previous seasons. And they had great coaching along the way. Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh, the buttons they were able to push throughout the season, I think, were just tremendous. It sucks losing Saleh, knowing that the job he did last year in the defense against Philadelphia in the playoff game, like the coaching staff was so good to a point where it's like, I don't know if Raheem Morris can do the same thing for this defense if the injuries occur again, but you're right. The expectations were set pretty low, but I think the bar was raised as to how good this team can be now in 2026 based off what they showed us in 2025.
Yeah, I think as far as what people are questioning, yeah, we do have a lot of players coming off injuries, and we've had to come through a lot. Like, you looked at how last year was, crazy amount of injuries, but you still were able to get some guys to contribute and still step up.
Yeah, you look at people like Garrett Wallow and Michael Kendricks, or Eric Kendricks, excuse me, who was signed basically off the street, middle of the year, or off Denver's practice squad. What they were able to get from players like Keon White, who was traded from the Patriots to San Francisco near the trade deadline, to even the offense of not really being able to rely on Jordan Watkins and Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing to have to play guys like Kendrick Bourne, who were castaways from the Patriots during the offseason. It really is, looking back on last season, kind of unfathomable as to how far the team went, but also it sets the table for how far they can go in 2026. And you hope that with the moves they made and the guys they've replaced, that while they won, 13 games last year, 12 games last year, that they can do the same thing and maybe even beat better teams. Maybe go into Seattle and beat them, or beat the Rams on the road, or something along those lines, because of they had to rely on people that otherwise shouldn't really be out there in playoff games. Like Malik Turner played snaps on the road in playoff games. Malik Turner, that guy stinks. And so to have that, I at least in my opinion, knowing they got better at so many different places, at least gives me hope that 2026 can bring more for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that comes away with last season was that bad taste from Seattle winning in our stadium. That's just something we got to – I don't think we're probably going to be able to recover, but if we can go into this upcoming season and try to do the same and return to the Rams instead, then maybe it'd be bittersweet to win at SoFi.
Yeah, I didn't really put too much stock into the Seattle winning at Levi Stadium. I didn't really care that much. I understand the point of, like, it's your home field and your division rival won in your stadium. Maybe they put some thought into that, but I certainly don't. I don't think it matters too much. I would not take pleasure in winning in Los Angeles or Seattle over I would winning in Minnesota or winning in New York. As long as you win, that's all that matters. I don't think the Seahawks look at it as oh, I beat the Patriots in Santa Clara. Oh, that feels better than winning in New England or winning elsewhere. It's like, as long as you win, that's the only thing that matters when it comes to the Super Bowl. So I don't really care too much. Some fans do, some fans don't. I just find myself leaning towards more of like, the Niners couldn't defend their own home field, so why should I care that much?
Yeah, but it was just kind of like a salty feeling for us Niner fans just to see that
Sure.
that rival just win, and now you're just seeing their offseason. They're bragging, they're just coming at us, and they're coming out of nowhere. So that's the crazy part. But I mean, enjoy your parade, but hopefully this upcoming season we finally come up into to you know how the Eagles were like that team that lost against Kansas City, and we had a motivated factor.
Yeah, I don't know if the Niners, like, even today, after how good of an offseason they've had thus far, I think they are still the third best team in the division. Now, Seattle lost a lot of players, and the draft is still ahead of us, so that could change again in my mind. But I still think the Rams and the Seahawks are ahead of San Francisco. Now, you have to play the games, right? That's what actually
True.
matters in between the lines. But on paper, I think I would still have the Seahawks and the Rams above San Francisco. But that doesn't say that San Francisco hasn't closed that gap, because I do think they have, at least on Seattle, maybe not so much the Rams, but I don't really think the Niner fans, at least the ones I've talked to, I don't think they really view the Rams as the problem. It seems like their eyes are more towards Seattle and the Rams right now.
Well, the Rams, to me, they got a really good offense. I think when it comes down to when
Yeah.
Stafford has all the time in the world, that's when they're effective. And when they got everything clicking, yeah, they're scary good. But defensively, we've always seen their Achilles heels become the secondary. Their
Yeah.
linebackers are like a liability at times. So when you look at how they've been a good balanced team, so I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, they're a team to take seriously because McVay knows how to bring the best.
On top of that, too, they also got McDuffie from the Chiefs and also signed Jalen Watson. So they have improved one of their biggest weaknesses. And even linebacker last year, Nate Landman, really improved that unit. But again, I still think if you asked most people, who's the top dog in the NFC West, at least if you polled Niner fans, I think they would still say it's the Seattle Seahawks, whether it's based on last year or with how the offseason has gone. I think Niner fans take the Seahawks rivalry a little more seriously than the Rams one. Maybe that's wrong and ill-conceived, but it does feel that way, at least from who I've talked to.
Well, there's some that feel the same way, but when it comes to my opinion, I think the Rams are a team to take seriously because
Yeah.
they were just a couple plays away from actually beating Seattle and getting to the Super Bowl. I mean, they went aggressive into the offseason. So if you don't take this team seriously, then I don't know what to say. I think Seattle, to me, is going to take a step down because they lost key players. I think it's going to be hard to replace certain players. And usually the team that wins a Super Bowl, they usually take a little step down for some reason.
Yeah, it certainly seems like Seattle is at least taking a step back in trying not to pay a lot of their free agents. They brought back some guys, but they watched Kenneth Walker leave this offseason for all the right reasons. I think they're probably going to draft the running back. They went and signed Emmanuel Wilson from the Packers during free agency. Um, you know, the thing is, the Seahawks and the Rams are really on two different playing fields when it comes to where they're at as an organization, as a team. The Seahawks, I think, view themselves as the window just getting started, hence why they don't want to continue to pay a lot of players big money. They want to revitalize their organization, refresh things during the draft, and keep themselves young, fast, quick, strong. Whereas the Rams are like, we got Stafford, not sure for how long, but until he's gone, we're going to maximize each and every year, hence them getting improvements on the secondary, them adding some wide receivers and trying to improve their defense this offseason. So they're on two different paths because the Rams inevitably will fall once Stafford is gone unless they make a massive deal for somebody else, which could happen. I just feel like the Seahawks are doing things to keep the window open for the next 5-6 years, whereas the Rams are like, we got to capitalize on what could be a 2-year window to get things done again.
Yeah, I mean, but I think this is the point of taking them seriously because their window is at least 2 good years with Stafford once he retires. So like you said, they're taking Seattle more serious. Of course, you want to take them serious because they won the Super Bowl. But like Seattle's being very wise, and that's going to sustain for them for the long term. But I really think for the short term, you do got to take the Rams very seriously. And I may kind of troll with them here and there, but yeah, Rams have built a roster with Sean McVay. They've won championship. They've been to Super Bowls. They've been successful than the Niners, and it kind of hurts me to say even Seattle. What Mike McDonald did in a short period of time for 2 years coaching Seattle is remarkable. I mean, yeah, Seattle's going to be a problem for years to come. Don't get me wrong about it, but right now it's got to be the Rams.
Yeah, it's kind of a pick your poison, right? Like you made the argument earlier that you think Seattle's taking a step back, which you can easily see, whether it's the kind of Super Bowl or post Super Bowl lull, kind of the hangover, if you will, losing some players, relying on other guys to take their spots on defense and offense, and maybe those guys don't play up to par as previous players did. Whereas the Rams, at least initially, like I can see the Rams getting off to an insanely hot start, coming out guns a-blazing, win their first, 7 to 8 games, and you're like, holy hell, look at the Rams. Whereas I can see Seattle starting off slow, then picking up steam towards the end of the year, saying like, okay, don't forget about us. We are the reigning Super Bowl champions. Or then San Francisco's like, hey, third wheel, we're still good too. So it's a stacked division. You can kind of go any way about it. I mean, there's even a case where you can argue San Francisco, if Brock Purdy's healthy all year, wins the division. And I really wouldn't complain or wouldn't push back a lot. But I think you're right from the standpoint of the Rams may win 13 games next year. Seattle may win 11 games next year, and San Francisco might win 10 or 12, right? Because the Seahawks schedule is probably a little harder. The Rams are going to be around there. And then San Francisco, once again, gets the third place schedule, which is great.
But I think their place will favor us more on this one.
Oh, sure. Like, I don't know exactly who they're going to play. Obviously, the opponents are out. I don't know when and where, obviously. But, the Niners, I think, kind of benefit from playing in a stacked division. It does, in a roundabout way, favor you when teams like Seattle and the Rams are better than you record-wise, simply because you do get to play teams that maybe are more down on their luck, or at least trying to make the come up in their own divisions, whereas the Rams and the Seahawks are playing, number 1, number 2 seeds in every single division throughout the season, which could knock them down a peg.
Yeah, like they're gonna face first or second place schedule. We're gonna go with third place schedule. So I think that's more of a beneficial with what you're saying. The up and coming teams, we might be playing a team like, let's say we play on our schedule, we play Miami.
Yeah.
That's going to be in Mexico. That's going to be an interesting game. But playing a game in Australia is just kind of something I didn't see coming on the bingo card on week 1.
Yeah, in some way, I'm happy it's week 1, simply because you have an entire off season. It's not, and then week 6 in the middle of the year where you've played, let's say you played Seattle on Sunday, then you have to go on a plane and go to Australia. Go to Australia the next week. So I kind of like that they're getting it out of the way. However, Kyle Shanahan doesn't seem too pleased about having to do 2 international games this year.
Yeah, I think he wanted to even push the Mexico game for the Rams too, so it would have been kind of like intriguing.
Yeah, I almost don't want that. I would rather play the Cardinals. Give me a gimme game in Mexico City. Like, that first game of the year is going to be a slugfest in Australia. There's going to be, like, I can see that game being, 26 to 27, 29, 26, kind of tooth and nail to the end, or one team comes out insanely flat and they just get mowed over and like, whatever, it's out of the way, who cares? But I almost want the gimme game in Mexico City. Like, get the tough one out early. Give me the Dolphins or give me the Cardinals in Mexico City, and let's just pound them into the sand and then get out of there and say, we're done. International games over for the year.
Yeah. I mean, Dolphins are just I think they're going to start rebuilding, just like how you look at the Cardinals. But I think the difference is a change of everything. Everybody's kind of getting replaced over there.
Well, they traded away Waddle. They let Chubb go. Tyreek Hill's still a free agent. Jeff Halfley takes over. I do like Malik Willis a lot as their quarterback. I think they kind of sniped the Cardinals in their pursuit for him, which he'll give you fits. I think he's a good quarterback. I'm not shocked he was liked by a lot of teams. I think he can give them a big boost offensively. I don't know how much and how good they'll be with the lack of offensive talent they have, but again, there's a draft in a week, so they can go out and get Jordan Tyson or Mekhi Lemon, and all of a sudden, in the span of 2 weeks, we're like, holy crap, the Dolphins' offense is electric. Offensively, they're young and they're fast and explosive. So it kind of depends. So I like what they're doing. I think it's smart. Get draft picks. I was kind of hoping the Raiders would do that, trade away some of their players. I was hoping that you would see other teams along the way that are trying to rebuild, trade their first round draft picks or get more first round draft picks in return, because that, like, next year's draft class is freaking stacked with talent. Yeah, so it's like, get as much as you can while you can.
Yeah, this year's draft class seems underwhelming. There's just a couple. I mean, if you want to get a certain amount of talent, maybe the receiver class is pretty talented. Like, you can look at linebackers are pretty skills at that position. The offensive line's all right. But when you look at the other positions, the quarterback class just sucks. Like, you got you got only Fernando Mendoza and possibly Ty Simpson. That's it.
Yeah, there's not much talent at quarterback. I think that's why you're seeing teams like the Dolphins and like the Browns and the Jets, especially, trying to accumulate draft picks next year and find their quarterback of the future. Don't really buy Aaron Glenn saying Geno Smith's our guy. That's a guy you get you fired. I also think that, this draft class, funny enough, is a really good class for the San Francisco 49ers, whether it's at edge. I think the interior defensive line class is super underrated, in my opinion. You have guys like Nick Barrett. You have guys like McClendon from or McClellan from Missouri, excuse me. Tim Keenan down the stretch. Like, they're all good run defending, high upside guys that you believe in. DeMonte Capehart as well, kind of like round 4, round 5 guys. So there's talent there. It just is a massive lack of blue chip guys, where it's like 2 or 3. And even one of those players being Sonny Styles, you can debate, maybe shouldn't go top 10, maybe should go more in the 15, 16 range. But that's kind of up to each person and each analyst's opinion.
Yeah. I mean, like, from a linebacker's talent, like, there's just a lot of good ones. Like, when you look at guys like Jacob Rodriguez, he can do everything. You look at Anthony Hill, a fast, physical linebacker. You got the Niners actually got this guy on a visit from Oklahoma. He's just a big physical linebacker, but he hasn't been talked about much, but he could be a day 3 option.
Yeah, I'm kind of debating in my own head, and I think I've settled on, the Niners, unfortunately, despite all the good they've done, they don't really have the luxury of wasting draft picks this year. Last year they had 11. They can take a chance on guys, right? Whereas this year they only have 6, and 4 of those are in round 4. You have round 1, 2, and then all of them are in 4, and they're all towards the end of round 4. So you're kind of stuck trying to find, players that fit your scheme. And if they don't trade back in either round 1 or 2, you don't really want to be sitting there empty-handed in round 3. You can trade up and take 5 guys instead of 6, but they have to find a receiver. They have to find an edge rusher. They should add to the defensive line right now. It's really thin there. It's Collins, it's West, it's Odigizua, then it's unproven guys like Sebastian Valdez and Evan Anderson backing things up, which really isn't great. You want to have some more depth behind them. You also got to find maybe a guard or a tight end. Like, it's a good class to have those needs that they do have, but not really a good class to not have a 3rd round draft pick or not have more picks, say, on day 2 compared to day 3 right now.
Absolutely. Like, as far as like sleepers, I mean, when we look at guys like as day 3 options, Niners always tend to hit on these players. But which player on day 3 do you have your eye on that you're hoping maybe the Niners should take a chance on?
Yeah, it kind of depends on positional value and how much Raheem Morris has a say in the draft. I think right now the consensus is receiver and edge are probably their number 1 and number 2 draft picks, simply based on need and positional value. I don't think you can walk into the year with Micah Williams being the only true guy opposite Nick Bosa, simply because he isn't really a pass rusher from the to the edge. They got to find the speed guy opposite him. But if safety becomes a need, which I do think it is, I do think they're looking at guys like AJ Halsey, Traden Stukes from Arizona, Bud Clark from TCU. But on the off chance that, let's say, those guys are gone, or let's say they don't get a third round draft pick, and in round 2, they're prioritizing edge over safety, I think round 4, because they have 4 draft picks there, become kind of the sweet spot for safety, or they want to trade back as well. Who knows? But there's a couple guys there. I think VJ Payne from Kansas State's a big one, or if you want that true free safety, he's 6'3", 206 pounds, 33 and 3/4 inch arms. I think that he's played more in the box than free safety, but he's got a lot of speed. He has 4.4 speed. He's somebody that can, I think, hang on the back end of a defense and not get burned too much. Again, he has played in the box more, but he can cover tight ends. He can flip his hips. He can play in man coverage pretty well. Also is really physical. Like, I like him over a player like Jalen Kilgore, who is like a true, like, in the box nickel safety. Like, he's not somebody you want on the back end of your defense. He's more akin to the likes of Jair Brown, but more explosive. I just wouldn't want him on the back end. Now, I think somebody that is not talked about whatsoever and isn't probably somebody you want starting for you on the off chance, but you mentioned day 3. So I think Lewis Moore from Indiana on the back end of the defense wouldn't be too bad. He's somebody that you can definitely find a better player than in the draft, obviously, and you can find better players throughout the NFL. But as a 25-year-old, 7th-year senior, as a spot starter, like on day 3, if like you don't love Jair Brown, who's in the last year of his contract, you're like not sure what Marquis Silo brings to the table, they wouldn't mind taking a chance on a guy like that. He's played in the season. Right. And so, like, it's kind of like, how do you view the future? Like, do you view Raheem Morris sticking around for a year, 2 years, 3 years? If that's the case, like, you got to find guys he likes. And I'm not sure that after you sign Nate Hobbs, who can also play safety, you have Jair Brown, you have Mustafa, you have Siegel, you just brought in Jack Jones. Like, it's a really crowded cornerback room. But my favorite guy of the entire safety class that no one's talking about is Zakee Wheatley from Penn State. I love what he brings to the table. 24 years old. He's ready to go right now. He's 6'2" and 3/4, nearly 200 pounds. He is a true free safety. Nearly 900 snaps at free safety the last 2 seasons. 6 career interceptions, only a 14.5 missed tackle rate, and 9.5% incompletion rate forced. He's not going to make all these splash plays and be a ball hawk for you, but the Niners don't really need that on the back end of their defense. They can get takeaways with the guys they have. However, the problem is it's getting caught up in running lanes, being over pursuant against the run, and simply not being fast enough. Jair Brown is too damn slow to play free safety in the NFL. He needs to be a Mustafa spot. Okay, well, that's our spot's already filled. You got to find a roaming free safety to cover on the back end. So I love what Wheatley brings. A little slower 4.6 speed, but I do think he plays well enough to hang in the NFL.
Oh, yeah. I mean, those are good ones that you just mentioned. VJ Payne's a lengthy safety, very fast, and he does like to punch for that ball too. So he's got that. And him and Siegel play together at Kansas State also. So
yeah,
that could be a good combination with those two guys working together. And then, yeah, Lewis Moore has more experience. He's been around college for so many years, and he's on a national championship team. So, of course, you want to bring in somebody with experience. But, yeah, the age might have dropped the stock down because they don't want to take a chance on somebody that old, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the debate, right? Like, in 2024, San Francisco drafted older prospects: Pearsall, Mustafa, Garendo, Pooney, like 23, 24-year-olds, guys that they expected to have an impact on day one, guys they wanted to have play immediately. And a lot of those guys did. Pearsall would have played had he not gotten shot. Mustafa played relatively soon, more so thanks to a fungus injury, but still. Pooney played from day one. Granted, it was because of Feliciano and Burford's injuries in training camp, but all those guys had an impact early. And now the Niners, like, I don't know how you view it, but like it does seem as if with who they signed this offseason, Mike Evans, Ray Greenlaw, Christian Kirk, a lot of veteran players for 1-year deals, round 1-year deal guaranteed. It does seem as if they view this year as like a win it all type of season.
Yeah.
And so I could see them not really too concerned by the age of prospects. Hence why I think, players like Malachi Lawrence, Akeem Mesidor, and you can even get deeper into the class for sure, but like older prospects don't really scare them away. And they haven't in previous years, and I don't think they're going to this year, like at all.
Or Keontae Scott from Miami can be another guy because he's got
Trayvon Stukes as well.
Oh yeah, those guys are experienced. But if we're talking sleepers that I have kept my eye on, is I'm thinking we probably not going to go offensive line as early as everybody says. I think we're like even Matt Miyoko said, and quite a few other people have said, I don't think we're going to go as early with offensive line. I think we're going to go receiver and pretty much pass rusher. There is a guy that I actually took a chance to get to know about, and I feel like he would fit really well into the Niners zone scheme. Like Enrique Cruz Jr. from Kansas, this guy's athletic. This guy moves. This guy can play tackle and guard. So it's kind of like what Dominic Pooney did, right? So you want somebody that can play a similar system. He's a guy that you can maybe get at the end of the 4th round. He kind of fits exactly what Kyle's looking for a starting caliber guard or a guy that can compete.
Do you view the offensive line as it needing starters, or do you view it as you add some depth, and if they become starters, great? Because I don't view it as, well, you got to find a tackle because Trent's not going to be there. Trent's going to be there. McKivitz is there for the next 2 years. Like, do you view it as you have to find a starter on day one? Or are you okay having a guy sit for a couple of years as long as they can add valuable depth behind the current guys on the roster?
Well, I'm good with them learning, because some of them that start right away, they tend to struggle in the early part. So usually it benefits them to learn. So I would probably prefer that guy, like even like a guy like Enrique Cruz. I think he would benefit better learning also. But if we're going with other offensive linemen that I like, I don't know. I'm just a big fan of that Arkansas O-line guy. He just seems a little bit aggressive, but I think the upside's there.
Yeah, when it comes to tackle, I am a big fan of Drew Sheldon from Penn State. I think he does need a couple years to sit, but I do think he has the athletic tool set Shanahan likes from his tackles. I think that, being 6'5", 303 pounds, he plays lighter. I think adding, 10 pounds of muscle, 15 pounds of muscle, making himself more dense, improving his anchor can go a long way. But, he's 2-year starter at left tackle. Last year, 18 pressures, 1 sack allowed, and almost or over 350 snaps. There is a nice kind of steady level of consistency there. I do think that, he has the size. He just needs to add some power behind his game and improve his anchor. I also do like Emil Wagner from Notre Dame, but he's a right tackle. Can he move over to left tackle maybe with time? I just think like a lot of people like Maxi Honichur from Arizona State, and I get it. I think
he's got good footwork and aggressive.
He's just the athlete that Shanahan's like, that's the guy I want in the offense. I can work with that, even if his hands aren't great, technique isn't always there. Even if he plays right tackle for a year, like if I can move him around and make him a weapon, I'll do it. I just don't think the Niners are going to be in a spot to draft him, whether it's first round or round 2. He'll be gone somewhere before that.
Yeah, he'll be.
And I think that, finding a guy in round 4 that will be on a similar career trajectory, sitting for a year, maybe 2, and having, albeit not similar offensive kind of athletic traits, I do think, you can find a developmental tackle in round 4 that maybe doesn't have the upside, but the Niners never truly draft offensive linemen for the upside. McKivitz was a 5th round draft pick. But it just seemed like, and I'm not saying that's what they should do, but that's what they always do.
They always look for those kind of guys that they can develop slowly. Like if there's a perfect develop, like a guy that can develop into day 3, I would say the one guy that I really like, I don't think he gets quite talked about much as far as an offensive line. I think Diego Pounds from Ole Miss, just something about his tape just stands out. Like, I think if Niners want to move him up slowly, he can develop nicely into a starting caliber guard. But if you want to tackle, like J.C. Davis seems kind of like a guy that I hear a lot about. Seems like he can be a
Yep.
starting caliber tackle.
Yeah, it does seem like this draft is not deep at guard, unfortunately. Like, this is not the draft where I'm like, oh, 4th round guard starting on day 1. It's a guy that will have to earn his keep, will sit around. Now, if they had a 3rd round pick, maybe, you'd be a little sooner in there. And say you're picking at 75 instead of, 127. We can have a conversation, but that's why I think a lot of people are mocking them to get a guard or a tackle early, simply because you can find a receiver, round 2 that you love. You can find an edge rusher at round 2 you love. And really, in some cases, depending on the draft board, if you want to trade up, you can trade into round 3 and find a player you like at edge or receiver too. So you'll hear names like Chase Basantis and Jennings Dunker and guys who are kind of the top end of the guard / kind of in between tackle class. Keelan Rutledge is up there too. He's great. But I want to ask you this. Would you be opposed, knowing that this isn't a great guard class, would you be opposed to drafting a guard in round 1 and then it's figuring it out and hoping guys kind of trigger in their year 3, 4? Like, receiver is a need simply because you don't know what you have in the room, right? Mike Evans is older. He's 30. He's going to be 34 this year. Pearsall's never been healthy. Cowing's never been healthy. Watkins played 2 games last year, basically. Christian Kirk is an older player, albeit not much production behind his name anymore. And so it's like, the only reason, like, there's a lot of names in that room, but it's like no production behind it besides Mike Evans, and the future for him is kind of muddy. Yeah, would you be okay going guard and kind of taking a safety or taking a receiver on day 3? And it's like, hey, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Well, if it works, it doesn't. But like, the only way I would take a guard in the 1st round is if it's Vega. I don't know. Vega would be the sure guy. We have to move up for that guy. I think he's going to be gone by then.
You wouldn't go Pregnon from Oregon?
Oh, Pregnon? Maybe in the 2nd round, but I think he'll be gone by then. Like,
you wouldn't take him at 27?
Yeah, okay, if we're talking offensive lineman, Chase Pasaccio, I probably would take because he could be a plug-in starter. Pregnon, you can start him because he's got more experience. You want to go, like, at least you can solidify the offensive line, right? At least you got the quality depth. But when you want to prove, like you said, the receivers could be hurt and you don't have the quality depth behind it. So that could be concerning. But if we can get one in the 2nd round, then maybe I'd be okay with it. But yeah, offensive line to me is something we should prioritize. But let's be real. Most of our fans think the same exact way, but I think we're not going to go that route. We're probably going to wait until day 3, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Like, I have not, in all the mock drafts so far, it's been very rare that I've taken a guard or a tackle early. This team often reaches for offensive linemen because they have very specific traits they like out of them. So, like, we can mention all the guys we love, but they're going to take some random Joe Blow from, Fontucky, and we're like, who the hell is that guy? Like, where that guy? Because he has a great 10-yard split, and we're like, he's not going to play for, like, Nick Zakelj from Florida. He's not going to play for 7 years. So it's like,
that's the thing. We're going to reach for somebody that nobody knows about. And it's going to be like, it's like he's either going to not do shit or probably just be like just like an average Joe. Like, I think in the 2nd round, this might be a surprise. I think if we were to go offensive line, I think this would be a shocker because we did it with Aaron Banks. Nobody did, because nobody had a high grade on Aaron Banks. And this might be a shocker. I could be wrong, but if they were to go offensive line, maybe in the 2nd round, they might reach for that Georgia offensive line. Micah Morris, that guy hasn't allowed a single sack in 3 years. And if they get this guy, how would you feel at the reaction?
Oh, I'd be pissed. I think he sucks.
But he would be the Aaron Banks type of pick, right?
Yeah, but I think he sucks.
That's the point. See, we got
like, he can move.
They do reach for somebody.
he can move, but there's no urgency in his game. Yeah, he's an athlete. He's a big guy. And yeah, you're right. He does fit the, athletic traits. He ticks the boxes Shanahan likes, but the guy is not a good offensive lineman, in my opinion. Like, at least Aaron Banks has some pedigree behind him. Micah Morris is just simply not. Like, I would not be shocked if Micah Morris goes in round 7, in round 6, simply because despite having the athletic tool set necessary to play in the NFL, I don't think he will actually survive unless he figures things out technique-wise. It is one of the worst techniques in the entire class, in my opinion. For a guy getting that much discussion about him, I think his technique is terrible.
But who would be more of your shocker pick if you think what can possibly happen? Because I think that could be a reach, in my opinion.
On the offensive line, you like who's a player you think that they could take on the offensive line?
Yeah, or any player in general.
I mean, any player in general, like them reaching again for a safety could make some sense. Depending on who's there, Raheem Morris could maybe say, "Hey, we don't got to pick from 58 to 127. I got to get my guy. Like, let's reach." To even some regard, Traden Stukes is somewhat a not project, but a projection, because he's more of a slot cornerback at Arizona, but does have all the traits you want from a free safety. So that would be a reach per se, simply because the positional fit may not be there after you bring in Hobbs and you have Stout and everything. But I think, the quote unquote reach, you might see Gabe Yakus go round 1. And I wouldn't want that. I think he's a really good player. I think that there's a lot of upside there. He fits more of the power profile that Mike Hill has. And I don't think he feels the need of a speed rusher, but he's kind of the underrated piece. And I'm just not sure. Like, there'd be a redundancy, maybe higher upside than Mike Hill, but the Niners like who they like. And I don't know who said it from the source, so forgive me, but it may have been Peter Schrager who said that he got a text from an executive that was like, throw everything out of the building you think about positional value this year. Like, this is going to be one of the biggest crapshoots ever. Now, maybe the guy's wrong, but I think because the class lacks a lot of talent at linebacker and center and guard, there's a lot of holes at quarterback, and running back class is one of the worst in a long time. I think you are going to see teams reach for positions simply because there isn't much talent at those ones available. And like Jadarian Price in most classes is probably a second round draft pick. But you may see guys like Mike Washington go earlier than he should. You may see guys like Emmett Johnson go maybe in round 3 or 2, simply because teams want to find and make sure they get their guy. So, next week's going to be fun for a lot of reasons, and I'm expecting some kind of chaos on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But which draft pick are you kind of hoping that Niners don't pick, that you kind of have a feeling he's not going to be good?
Oh, this is easy. It's a great time to ask this, because I think last week I dropped my 10 prospects to avoid for the San Francisco 49ers. I did the same
thing too.
And the one player I often see mocked to San Francisco more in the second round than the first is Chris Brazzell. And I don't understand the hype. I get it. He's 6'5", 200 pounds. That is an amazing build for an NFL player, right? He's 22 years old. He's young. He can get vertical. And it's like, damn, like, this guy brings so much to the table. He has great speed. He can stretch the field. He can stack corners. He can get open deep. And it's like, okay, Sterling, what do you not like about the guy? I don't truly think he uses his body consistently. When you're 6'5", it's like, dude, Moss dudes. You see Denzel Boston, Malachi Fields, and other bigger receivers in this class that are above 6'3", 6'4", Elijah Surratt from Indiana. They use their bodies, they box out defenders, and they use their physicality to their strength. And Brazzell is more of a finesse player. And it's like, if you put on 10 more pounds and you're playing around, 212, 210, and you can body up some defenders, use your bodies, box them out, you have all the ability to be an amazing jump ball receiver. However, he does feel a little bit more like a highlight reel of like, oh, look what Brazel did. When it's like the drops from 2024 was 17%. And then it dropped down to like 3% last year. Which player is it? Are you a 17% drop receiver or are you a 3% drop receiver? Now, we've seen guys, help and get more consistent over time, but there is that in there that does scare me. It's a big reason why I am not as high on Casey Concepcion as some are. 10% drop rate the last 2 years. If you're a smaller receiver that doesn't have a big catch radius and you can't catch the football, that's concerning for me. Now, I like Concepcion much more than Brazel, but I think that Brazel doesn't truly have the ball skills. I think he's a good receiver. I think the highlights are impressive, but your drop rate is way too high for my liking. I think he's a chest catcher that usually does not last long in the NFL. He doesn't have the strength and the box out ability I want for a 6'5" receiver. And I think that he's not a yak guy. He doesn't block in the run game. So it's like, what are you? I think he is a very specific receiver for a very specific scheme. And that's not the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, different kind of scheme. He's more of a vertical kind of guy, but not the kind of guy that can do the blocking and other stuff. Like, he's not a yak guy. He's not a guy that's gonna fight.
Philadelphia Eagle, like true and true. Like, that's what he is.
Yeah, he would fit well with their big plays and all that. But as far as a player that I'm kind of like hoping doesn't happen, but I'm hearing a lot of these mocks. It's like a mixed mock with this guy. It's like, this guy, I'm not understanding. Kendrick Falk, to me, just seems like bust written all over it. Like, lower production. You're only looking at maybe the 2024 tape, but even that, he wasn't that impressive to me. Like, I come away disappointed with this guy. Like, I'm trying to see what people are hyping him about. I like the other Auburn guy. What's his name? Crawford, better than him, which says a lot. But if we get this guy, what does that prove? We're not learning our lessons. It's Solomon Thomas again. To me, I see Solomon Thomas written all over it, or at least a poor man, Eric Armstead.
Yeah, I think Falk, the reason why teams like him and the reason why he may go top 15 is because, one, he's massive, right? He's 6'6", 276 pounds, and you're just like, damn, that's a big man.
You like the specimen and all that, but production don't pass.
And 34 3/8 inch arms. He's super young, so it's like, if he has 4 to 5 years in our defense, can we teach him, right? Can he be on the Trayvon Walker kind of trajectory of like, we can work with you and may make you better and then earn a second contract towards the end of your first deal and truly kind of explode into the next player? Like, he's somebody I can see teams saying, not in his rookie deal, but on that second contract, you're going to get a damn good football player. However, you're right, though. Like, there's just not much production there. He is a strong inside rusher that probably should gain 20 pounds and is play the interior than play on the outside. Now, there maybe is a Micah Williams kind of, okay, you set the edge on, first and second down, base downs, move inside on third downs, and you utilize your strength to take on double teams. But it's like, it kind of feels like the right team has to pick him for it to truly work. And I really don't think San Francisco has their eyes on him whatsoever. I don't even think he makes it to the 20s, to be honest with you. I think he's long gone.
I'm just hoping so, because I hear a lot of this, he can drop here and there. But then this is the recent mock draft that I'm hearing a lot also is Caden Proctor. It's more like, you look at Alabama's track record over the years when it comes to offensive line. They just haven't really panned out over the years. But the knock on this guy is he's out of shape. Like, I don't think this regime kind of values that, because if they did, they would have kept Trent Brown for many years.
Well, so let me ask you this, and I'm asking it simply because the stat is astonishing. What do you think he played at weight-wise at Alabama last year?
100 pounds almost?
He was 380 plus pounds playing left tackle at Alabama.
Yeah, he's like a fat kid running for the ice cream truck, man.
Yeah. And he's already dropped 30 pounds getting ready for the NFL. So it's like, if you can drop 10 more and you're playing at 340, you're playing closer to 330. It's like, if you're that great of an athlete at that weight, at 380 pounds, like, there's reason to believe he'll be a better athlete. Now, that doesn't mean he doesn't have problems. He certainly
Better
does.
guard, maybe, but not as a tackle. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, he has the length to play tackle. He has the size to play tackle. But the one thing I don't like about him, and it may be a product of him playing at a heavy weight, again, 380, 390 pounds, speed rushers ran by him because it was so much weight to carry across his body.
Yeah, our Mason Thomas beat him. Oof.
Right. And I'm not going to lie to you, even as an Oklahoma Sooner fan myself, I don't even want San Francisco to take our Mason Thomas.
Ooh.
And I love him. I just think the way the Niners are set up right now, defensively, in the front seven at edge, either they want to move Michael to the interior more often, but getting Odigizua doesn't really signify that to me, or you have to find a speed rusher to accompany him. And I'd much rather have Cassius Howell, despite his arm length, because he has a legitimate pass rushing tool set. I'd rather have Height from Texas Tech simply because they do feel like more day one impactful players because they're already refined as pass rushers. Like Height's 25 years old. He's a day one player. Season. Right. And so it's like, do the Niners could go for our Mason Thomas and it may take 2 or 3 years and he finally pops, right? Where he has more of the refined skill set. He has the spin, the swim, the club, and all this stuff. Whereas Height and Howell, day one, they're starting opposite Michael or alongside Michael on third downs simply because they are ready to go. They're more refined players. And it's like that goes back into our conversation earlier of, does San Francisco want to win now or can they trust themselves to kind of understand that, you may not have a 10-sack player to accompany Michael on the edge. You may have a 5 or 6 sack guy in our Mason Thomas in year one and then explode later, but that's more of a projection than it would be an instant impact player on day one.
No, you probably want the sure thing, like a guy who can make an impact. Like, I think if Niners really want to hit on this draft, if they want to go safe and they want to be smart and make sure they get all the guys who can produce, you want to get Messidor. Messidor's going to produce. He's got more seasons.
But there's injuries there.
But he's going to be rotating.
I don't think Akeem Messidor I think Messidor can play as a 3-down edge rusher.
Yeah, he could.
Now, he may not simply because of the injury stuff and Michael being there. And that's also part of the conversation, too, of do you truly take Gabe Yakis, for example. I think Gabe Yakis can be a 3-down player at the NFL level. Do the Niners take a player they view as somebody that can play 3 downs consecutively on the edge? Or do they still want to commit to the Michael Williams, I don't want to say project, but projection of him trying to learn to be a pass rusher and get better on the interior and then get the speed rusher opposite him? There's kind of that back and forth.
Yeah, I think they're going to still try to work with Michael Williams, but of course they want to get somebody like a Bryce Huff.
Yeah. But which is so then you're not taking Gabe Yakis.
Nah, you're going to take a Malachi Lawrence, if anything else, because he kind of fits exactly what you're looking for. But like you said, as a Sooners fan, our Mason Thomas, to me, he would fit the description, but what's there not to like about Mason Thomas?
Well, that's what I mean is for the Niners specifically, it's not him as a player. But it's the Niners specifically. It's you want guys that you believe, if you're taking them on day one or day two at pick 2758, that they are going to instantly start and walk into camp as this, not supremely refined, finished product, but somebody that you believe has a pass rushing skill set. And you have Cassius Howell, who has, while he's a one-dimensional player, being a speed rusher off the edge, he's got an amazing first step. He's explosive, but he has a speed move. He has a cross chop, a spin, a Euro step, a bull counter. He has a very expansive kind of, toolbox to go along with who he's a player. Then you get to Ramel Height, kind of a similar player, albeit Height's older and longer and lengthier than Howell is. But our Mason Thomas, although is similar to Howell in size and weight, albeit I think he's a little heavier than him, he doesn't really have a pass rushing skill set. He doesn't really have this expansive toolbox to turn to. It's more of like, I'm an athlete. I have my speed. I have an amazing first step. That's how I'm going to beat you. Okay, well, you're playing in the NFL now. You have NFL tackles against you. While that may work at times, they're going to beat you more often than not. And you have to be able to, when they get their hands on you, because if you're 6'2" and you're a smaller guy, same as Hal, right? If they get into your chest or they can get hands on you with their vice grip hands, how do you react? How do you counter? I don't think Mason Thomas can do that just yet, whereas Hal and I think can, at least somewhat more on day one.
Yeah, I can see why. I would think he would have to come up with better techniques instead. And I think somebody like Bosa can teach him the way. But like you said, he might be a progress. But if you want a sure impact guy, like Malachi just has more of the fit. But like you said, Gabe Jacas is quite a guy that would be a good player. But I think it will take him some time to be what he is. I mean, but sure thing, like a sure thing, like Niners have a chance to get all these guys ready to play, or taking a chance on a guy you might take a year or two to develop. That's just not the time for this. This is a win now for this team.
Well, so that's kind of the debate I'm having as well of like, okay, because the talk is receiver or edge rusher, right, in round one. And I am more of the belief that edge rusher is probably more of an immediate need, simply because you probably don't want to wait until 58 to take one. Because then you have a lot of slim pickings, and you're kind of like, well, we didn't get the first 5 guys we like. Now we're kind of reluctantly taking, whoever it may be. But then at receiver, it's like, okay, like I love Denzel Boston. I would love to have another, high point, wide catch radius, sure contested catch guy on the outside, while Mike Evans can go play slot, which he did a lot of in Tampa Bay, and give Brock Purdy guys that he believes, if I throw it up, F it. They're down there somewhere, and they're going to bring it down. That's Denzel Boston. That was Jawan Jennings in previous years. That's hopefully Mike Evans this year or the next couple of years in San Francisco. But then I'm like, well, yeah, but like they don't have a yak guy, and Niners kind of, they don't need a yak guy, but they could use a yak guy. You'd love to have, Chris Bell or Casey Concepcion in this class. And I'm not a big Zachariah Branch fan because he's 5'8" and he's really tiny.
Yeah, I see no.
But like,
but he's fast.
He's extremely fast. But it's like, if I were to rank them, I like Chris Bell more than I like Concepcion. Yeah, he's bigger. He can play the X. He's not as explosive, but he is explosive enough to play in the NFL. He's a bigger body guy. He can lower his pads and lay somebody out if he has to. And he's great GX.
Yeah, he's quite built.
And so it's like, I want to ask you that, knowing that this team right now does not have a third down edge rusher to accompany Micah Williams, but equally seems to desire getting a wide receiver to accompany Pearsall, and they're in the rather unproven room. Would you value a yak guy or an edge rusher at pick 27?
Yeah, the problem is you're going to need somebody to rotate in for Micah Williams. I think you need a guy that can be a closure. Like if you don't get one in the first, it starts to drop down. Like you're not going to get a guy like Malachi Lawrence, because I think he's good as gone. R. Mason Thomas, you're probably 50-50. You might and you might not, but the chances are it starts to drop down from there. So you probably need to get an edge rusher in the first. That would be my opinion. Like, I think getting one in the first round would probably be better. I think wide receiver, you can probably go for a Jeremy Bernard if he's still there, and he would fit really well. Or like Kyle might have a thing for Zachariah Branch, which you're not a big fan of, but he can find ways to get somebody involved. As long as you're like a second round pick, there's no way he's gonna put you in the doghouse. You got to
well, that's also the thing is like I've heard a lot of fans say, no matter who they take at receiver, he's not going to play much this year. And I think it depends. Like, I think that at pick 27, Chris Bell, Concepcion would probably play more than Denzel Boston would, simply because of their unique skill set, which doesn't really exist on the Niners offense right now. But I tried to this past week to look at the draft class and say, who do I think the Niners will take? Not who I want them to take, not who I think is the best player at the position, who I think they're going to take at 27, 58, and through the draft. And it was a bunch of guys that I really didn't love. And, I thought TJ Parker kind of screams 49er to me. And I don't love that. I think there's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of high upside involved for sure. If there is a true 3-down player in TJ Parker, his 2024 tape, he walked into this year as the number 1 edge rusher in the country during the summertime. And he was so bad this year, as was the entire Clemson team, where it dropped him down to a fringe first-round pick. Now, it's still a good player, but it's like, which player are you going to get this year? But I was like, you know what? That screams 49ers who trust their coaching staff, sometimes too much. Looking at you, Chris Forrester, but I believe alongside Bosa and Michael and Odigizua and Alfred Collins and West and with Chris Kocurek as the coach, that they believe that Parker's best days are ahead of him rather than behind him. And then around 2, I sat back and I was like, you know what? Like, I do love Jimmy Bernard. He was gone at the time on the draft board, but I was like, damn, like, I think Elijah Surratt kind of screams 49ers too. He's an X receiver who can play the outside. He can catch stuff. Like, you want to replace Juwan Jennings, he's right there.
He runs a 4.5. He runs a 4.5. He doesn't run as slow on a 40 time. So he's got a pretty quick 40 time than Juwan. So he would be not too bad of a choice. I mean, Omar Cooper he kind of fits the mold, but
I love him. I love him. He's so good.
I just don't think he's going to be there. That's the crazy part. But the pick that I feel like that screams 49ers that might just be a shocker is like, for some reason they have these mock draft boards, but dude, I just don't see how that guy. But I just think for whatever reason he could be like a head scratching pick to me. It's like we might just reach for a D tackle in the first, and he might be best available. I think Caden McDonald would probably be a perfect fit.
You'd want a run defending defensive, or you think they would want a run defending defensive tackle?
I wouldn't want. But if it's best,
I think I'd throw up.
Yeah, but you know how they look at boards; they'll look at best available, and they want to solidify everything, right? But I'm not saying it's. I'm hoping it doesn't happen. But what if they kind of value that more? That kind of fits what they're looking for.
See, I think if you want a run defending defensive tackle, like last year you brought in. Right, but like you got Collins last year, who I think was damn good in his first season. I think the upside is crazy for him. I think that you got West behind him, who I think is a run defender, but has high upside as a pass rusher. Like if you want a run defending defensive tackle, there are going to be plenty on day 3. And reaching for one on day 1 to me would be a disservice to what you've already done on the defensive line. And it would be a massive slap in the face to all the needs you currently have on the roster. Like, you can get guys, like Tim Keenan, who is 6'1", 327 pounds. You can get DeMonte Capehart. You can get Nick Barrett from South Carolina, who I think is a great player that no one's talking about. Chris McClellan from Missouri on day 3. It's there's so many other guys you can get in round 4 that it's like, don't even discuss defensive tackle until pick 133.
I'm hoping it's not the case, but you know how the Niners are. They'll go for something randomly that we don't even see coming. But I'm not saying, like, I just get kind of screams 49ers pick because they'll look at what's available. And if he happens to be available, they might have him high on their board. So it's like you're saying, those day 3 D tackles, I agree with you. There's some good ones. Like, you know which one I like the most? He has the coolest name. His last name is Corleone, man. Get the Godfather from Cincinnati. That's the one I like.
So,
yeah.
You're speaking of Dante Corleone from Cincinnati?
Mm-hmm. Dante, yeah. He's kind of like a guy you can develop.
The one thing, and it's why he is completely off of my draft board, isn't because of character stuff, isn't because of play. He's blood clots. And that's terrifying. Like, you may draft a guy that may never play for you, or he does play and you get lucky. Like, that is terrifying to me. Blood clots ended Chris Bosh's career. Granted, it's the NBA, not the NFL, but it's like, whenever you're dealing with that, you are adding an additional concern on top of the guy who you don't know can be or hang in the NFL. So I would not draft him simply because of a health concern that it's not his fault, but it's there and it exists. And you have 6 draft picks. You can't waste them on guys
Can't
that may not
waste
play
him.
for you.
No, I'm just saying he's like one of the guys I tend to like a little bit, but I think, like you said, he has some health issues and a little bit of character issues. But the one guy that's probably risky to me is that Ole Miss guy. Like he's a big guy, but too much red flag. So I don't know. It's like
Xavier Harris, who's 6'8", 330 pounds with 35-inch arms, but also has a domestic violence case behind him. And you're like,
that's what I'm saying. Too risky.
Say it away. Say it away.
But yeah, there's a couple of decent players. Like even the other Oklahoma D tackle, Demonic Williams. He's a solid one, but I think you might get him undrafted maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a tough thing too, is like, I know myself and Larry Kruger did a mock draft together and talked about, you looked at some UDFAs at the board, and I'm like, yeah, but like a lot of these mock draft simulators, I don't think are taking into account, teams are going to reach on certain positions simply because there's not a lot of talent there. Running back, you can look at defensive tackle, albeit day 3 is a good chunk of players, but like linebacker for sure. Quarterback even maybe at times. But I don't know. It's like you may see teams that, your entire UDFA board are drafted on day 3 and round 5 because teams are going to reach because they have to. Like Le'Veon Moss, running back from Texas A&M, was a UDFA on one of the draft boards we did. And I'm like, that guy's going to go on day 3 because he's of the group a top 10, top 12 running back. And the class is already so bad, no one's going to not take him. Yeah. And so it's like, I don't know. It just, I struggle with the current mock draft simulation status simply because this draft, all drafts are unique, but this is one of the more unique drafts simply because a lot of positions that normally you see good value, running back, quarterback, linebacker, there's not much of that there this year.
I mean, for linebackers, like it's solid, but like when you get a day 3 pick, I mean, there's a couple guys you can take a flyer and develop.
Yeah, but like a day 3 running back or like a day 3 linebacker to me, like when the Niners drafted D Winters in a bad linebacker class, he's probably a 3rd round pick, a 4th round draft pick. But like this year, like D Winters this year is probably a 3rd round draft pick or a 4th round draft pick. Whereas like the best linebacker, probably like the good ones are probably off the board, by round 4, simply because there's not many where you're like, oh, love that. Ooh, like that trait fires me up. Like Nick Martin went 3rd round last year. It was a massive reach. Nick Martin probably goes 3rd round this year because of the traits he has.
Yeah. Like, I think he was a bit of a reach in my opinion. I had like a 5th round grade on what I saw, but I think we're going to probably reach for a certain player that could have been like 2 rounds later, but we're probably not going to get him because most of our picks are gone from there. But like they're doing their homework on Kendall Daniels, man. Big kind of linebacker can cover in space and play with Nick Martin at Oklahoma State.
Well, that's one of the reasons why, and maybe, kind of a different part of the conversation. Like the reason why I took TJ Parker is because Raheem Morris is going to want to drop one of those defensive ends in coverage. And TJ Parker is surprisingly pretty good in coverage. And it's like that separates him from other edge rushers in the class, albeit, he's not going to draw Parker in coverage 20 times a game, but like he'll mix and match and you'll see, like, you don't want Nick Bosa in coverage, like ever. You want him getting after the quarterback. Whereas like I could see him dropping Parker back in coverage and have him being a zone coverage player for a little bit of time, especially in his 5-man fronts he uses. So like I personally don't value linebacker this year, knowing you have like 8 guys in that room: Bethune, Warner, Greenlaw, Winters, Martin, Wallow. At some point, they're going to bring back, maybe Eric Kendricks again. Who knows? Like, there's already so many guys in that room vying for limited spots where it's like, why add to a room that the guys to jump 6 guys to even see the field,
Yeah. Well, TJ Parker kind of seems to fit what you're talking about, like coverage wise and all that, and that's what Raheem Morris is looking for. So that might be the rare pick because last year we thought Saleh was going to pick somebody different, but Cal Williams was completely the opposite of what we thought of. So it could be TJ Parker. He could be exactly what we need, and maybe he doesn't quite wow us, but production wise, like from last year, not so much, like you said, maybe because the defense was so bad, it took a huge dip off of what they were at Clemson. Like you do got some good talent on Clemson. I mean, Terrell, he's kind of a solid cornerback. You look at their
a lot of soft
D-tackle,
issues, though.
yeah, and then you look at Peter Woods and Cape Hart. Those are good ones, but they did take a dip down, and maybe that's why his production slipped a little bit than previous years.
Yeah, it seems like the entire Clemson team took a dip in the we suck pond for a whole year.
But he might be a good fit with us.
Yeah, and that's kind of the debate of like what Parker do you get off the edge? Do you get Parker last year who he was fine. He wasn't really a game changer. There were some plays where you're like, are you taking a play off or two? Like, what's going on? But then last year or 2 years ago now, excuse me, he was incredible. He was, he has the length, he has the size. He had he had 11 sacks, 19 and a half tackles for losses, and 6 forced fumbles 2 years ago. Whereas last year he had 5 sacks, 9.5 tackles for losses, and 3 of those sacks came against a bad South Carolina offensive line. So it's like, are you getting the 11 sack near 20 tackle for loss player, or are you getting the guy last year who just simply couldn't find his way to the quarterback if he tried? So, but I don't know, man. It's like, I think a lot of people are not stuck, but just don't really know what to expect because we have not, as Niner fans, seen a Raheem Morris defense before up close and personal outside of his time with the Rams. And even then, like, no one's deep diving into their draft classes and trying to see what they're doing. We're trying to see what San Francisco is going to do. So like there is a different style of defense being played this year to some extent. And I think that, the Niners are kind of in a unique place of like, do you want a speed rusher? Do you want somebody that can play 3 downs? Like the question is, what does Raheem Morris want for his defense? And how much does Kyle and John say you have to run the wide 9? Like, Nick Bosa loves that. Do you want to upset the guy who wants a new contract in 2 years' time? I don't think so. Like, that to me does play into the conversation a little bit too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's going to be a question to how we find out next week, but I can't wait for next week how it plays out, man. We'll definitely figure out how that plays out with how the draft goes. But, man, it's been good to chit-chat. We've been going for hours. I know you've already got some stuff to do, man, but maybe down the road if something comes available, man, let me know. Maybe I'll jump on your show.
Hey, dude, got to figure it out. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Figure it out.
But hey, man, for your social media platform, man, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at 49ers Access. It's .access for Instagram, _access on X or Twitter. You can also follow me on YouTube, simply at 49ers Access, or the audio podcasting platforms, whether it's draft content, in-season content, game content, off-season content. It's all there, ready to go for you. And to answer Kenny 49ers questions, he asks, what was the problem last year? And do you think Robert Saleh deserves any blame for how bad the sack numbers were? Some blame, maybe, sure, but if no one can get to the quarterback, that's a problem. You have a bunch of guys that are just kind of sticks in the mud that have no pass rushing ability. Alfred Collins isn't a pass rusher. Wes wasn't a pass rusher. Michael got hurt. Bosa was gone. And it was Bryce Huff, who is not a 3-down player, having to play 3 downs a year or a game. They didn't have the profile. They didn't have the tool sets to get home. And it was more of a personnel problem than a coaching problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Cleveland Farrell just wasn't quite what he was. He's not it.
Nope. Samuel Kawana was the best edge rusher, and he's a 5 on a good team.
Yeah, he is. But, man, we had a good time, man. Hopefully everybody enjoys, man.